Diane. This is my first Mental Play World Conference, actually. I'm having a great time. But I would like to say, I think we are all together as one already. As long as there's two companies up there at the top, there's always going to be a split. The grassroots level, there doesn't have to be a split. I agree with Hattie, there's a lot that we already have, and we just need to figure out the best way to utilize it. We are global already. We just need to figure out the best way to utilize it, what works best for everybody. And, I think we're kind of on our way there already. That's my 2 cents.
Hi, Alice Alperine from New Jersey. All that everybody said is perfectly great. But I think what we need is transparency. Transparency in members, transparency in the corporate sponsors. As long as we know what we're dealing with and who is presenting something and what their purpose is, I think we can deal with it. But what we don't want, and I think it's the white elephant in the room, is we don't want to be misled. We don't want to think that we have a member and it's really a corporation that is sponsoring something like a guild at a local level so that they can have influence in a certain way. So I think transparency is really the key to success. Thanks.
So we're going to move on, unless there's anything else on who are the customers' members. We're going to move on and talk about, sorry, this should be up on the board, but it's not. One of the categories we had was the geographic scope, and someone said earlier multicultural and global in scope. Is there anything else we think we need to add to that? Do we think that covers it? So, having said that, we're going to now move on to next steps. Someone mentioned something about tabling a few things, and we already wrote down a few of those next steps. So the next steps we have written down so far are get ideas from other similar guilds, bylaws, etc. Earlier we wrote down that we're going to table discussions about not-for-profit, not-profit, and some of the technical things. Enfold the PMC guild numbers, figure out what happens to our clay society, how does it impact the relationship with IATA. Can you read my own handwriting? I think that next step I wrote down about transparency, but I don't think it's actually a next step. We put it down somewhere else. Come on up, please.
The big one now, and who's going to start this? Who's going to be the board that is going to start putting all together, meeting,
So I hear from that, we have a next step of identifying the volunteers that are going to put this together. Just something we'll be asking before the evening is over. What other next steps are there?
surveys.
What type of information do you expect from the surveys?
Basically what we've talked about tonight, because, face it, we're not all here.
Right.
Okay, so we need to put it out. I think it would be lovely if the PMC Guild put it out, and our Police Society put it out, and put us maybe the kind of nuts and bolts group that's going to meet tonight, maybe not have the responsibility of running the organization, but maybe that might be an outreach group that says, okay, let's figure out what the survey is. Let's take all these things we've got, put them together, and have surveys out to all the members in the guilds. And we have, the Yahoo group, the Metal Clay Gallery group. That's a huge group of people. That's a great resource of information. So not only put out a survey of what we've discussed tonight, but say, fill other. I think we need to open it up to other.
Bless you again.
Basically, what Lorraine said was, I don't think it's time to start getting volunteers to run it yet here, because we're too small. And there's a lot of people that aren't here.
Okay, I'm Sydney from Philadelphia.
Closer to the mic.
And I guess, so you don't have volunteers, so. All right, but,
You can volunteer.
There are going to be some things that you have to here.
but I think that you should, every good organization needs a good website, and so you should be thinking at least about your website. And so I would ask that you probably need to be thinking about what your website needs, and thinking about ideas and what kinds of things you want from your website. The reason I say that is because when you do decide that you want to ask someone to do your website, it would be good to have a plan first. I would love to volunteer to help you to create that website, but if you decide not to have me, you should at least have a plan before you ask someone to do your website. That's all.
Okay, others?
Ms. Pam up here. I think that possibly we need to talk with our, let our masters reach out to us, others, or seniors, or regular certified people, and see what we're thinking, and then report back to you, and then y'all kind of start putting it together, you know, as opposed to just randomly picking out, doing the surveys and stuff. Do the survey and let y'all run the thing.
I'm going to answer. She's going to
I'm going to make this very short. I have two identities. I am an Art Clay Silver Master, which is a brand program. I cannot, as a master instructor, step forward because that is brand specific. Okay? I am also a metal clay artist, and I want to very much be a part of this group, but as an equal member. There are not going to be any guild masters. Is that, am I correct?
Well, as Katie pointed out, we've got an organization that is already somewhat in place with our Clay Society. The question is going to come, if we are going to create something new, something that's not our Clay Society, then we need to actually figure out the legalities of it, where it will be incorporated, how it will be established, how it will be set up. I'm willing to send bylaws that I've done. I'm willing to help out with all of the structure of that because I've done it for 3 other organizations, so hey, one more. But that needs to be done as a ground rule thing because once you're incorporated, you're stuck by the laws of that state in terms of how you need to structure your organization. So that needs to be decided very, very early on. After that point, you've got room to for flexibility. So that's a lunch.
Other near-term next steps? We can review what we got so far, because if these are things Okay. 2 minutes.
Okay.
Really happy to sit down.
Okay, we have a bunch of items that are next steps right now, and what we're looking at is really near-term next steps. We know there's a bazillion things that are gonna need to be done over the course of the next year or whatever. But what we want to do is, if we have next steps up here, we're going to need to identify people that are going to be willing to work on these things. If no one is willing to step up and say, I'm willing to help out with this particular task, there's nowhere to go. So we want to go through the next steps now. We do have a couple people that have volunteered for a few items. But we'd like to move forward. Obviously, please step forward.